The village here is a relatively small one compared to the others that we've heard about and that we're going to go on to see. And the utter devastation that we've walked around and witnessed firsthand today, it's been enough to move anybody. To walk around and see and hear the villagers' stories and understand that the water came from 3 different directions and merged before almost attacking the village. It's understandable why the devastation has been so vast, and as the villagers will tell you, it's almost a miracle that even they survived and whatever livestock and few belongings they have, they managed to hold on to. The numbers we've heard back home epitomise what we're seeing here now. 30 million affected by the floods, over 1,500 dead, and we're told they're conservative figures as well. We're told over 750 livestock were also killed, and seeing a few cows and goats here and asking the villagers, we're told that the struggle to save human life was so great that there just wasn't any chance whatsoever to save any livestock. And the tragic stories we're hearing here of seeing bodies being washed away and there was nothing they could do about it is absolutely gut-wrenching, especially when you stand here and you look around and they're telling you where they used to live and there's nothing left except a piece of rubble. What's right in front of me here is what the locals had as a masjid, of which one wall remains. And you can see the devastation that's brought them as well, not having a safe, holy place to worship Allah taken away from them as well, just adds to the pain they're already feeling and the loss they've suffered. The devastations the floods caused weren't just at the time when the water was present, although as catastrophic as that was, the problem for these villagers and the surrounding areas was the disaster that was to follow in the days coming, weeks and months that they're now having to endure. There's the problem of disease. As many people know, water-based diseases are prominent in areas like this after flooding. Without sufficient medication, which they're obviously not receiving, that's a huge issue for them. The common issue of starvation is kicking in as well, as more and more charities have dropped aid, pulled out, and now the people are left to fend for themselves. What's right behind us here is a larger body of water that the locals would have used as drinking water. And unfortunately, after the flooding, the water is now too polluted to use for drinking water. But they have no other options. They're forced to use the same water that they know is dirty enough to give them diseases, possibly even kill them. That's how forced they are. As I stressed earlier, it's water me and you wouldn't wash our hands in, and these people have no other option. The only water anywhere for miles they're having to use is drinking water. And this is why it's so important we continue to support them, not just to get them homes, not just to get them dry and through the winter, not just to feed them today, but to give them sustainability, to give them something to look forward to tomorrow, and something that we would take for granted back home in England, such as shelter, food and water, is something that these people are looking at here as we've spoken to today. And it's not something they take for granted. It's a luxury for these people now, and it's something that's our duty to make sure that they have it just as we have it. So that duty is upon me, you, everybody else who sees this. For those who have supported before, we're asking you to, as generous as you've been, we're asking you to be a little bit more generous and help these people out as well, because without your support, there really is no future for these people.
Once the flooding came, the whole village was covered. People eventually, they had to come back, because the reality is that these are not people who have an excessive amount of land, or they don't have families in cities, big cities where they can move to. They had no choice but to come back here. And as you can see, the water is still here, even though it has receded a lot more than it was initially, but the water is still here. And because of the water, we were just speaking to some of the villagers, and they were mentioning that even in the last few weeks alone, because of waterborne diseases such as malaria, which causes increase in mosquitoes, in this village alone, 5 children have died. 5 children in this village alone have died in the last few weeks because of the living conditions. But like I mentioned, what can they do? They have nowhere to go. So they've had to come back here and make do the best they can. And as you can see from around me, from the footage, the living conditions are not great. In fact, they're absolutely terrible. And imagine living here in 40 degrees, then the winter comes in and the conditions change. It's even though they didn't have the best of conditions before, at least they had a roof over their head. Now they don't even have that.